Hey there, and welcome to the UkeStuff channel and to this review of the Aiersi. It's their SU-024TB concert ukulele with a solid mahogany top. There it is. And this one was kind of a surprise. I knew that they had a concert. I've been in contact with the company a little bit since my original review of their pineapple ukulele, which I'll talk about in just a second, and was able to buy this one at a slight discount. They sent me a little bit of a rebate, about half the value of this. When I bought these, they were about $40, and they have gone up in price, although the current models on Amazon, right now, I think that's the only way that you can get these, although there might be a few sellers on eBay. A lot of their AliExpress partners right now have shut down shipping to the US because things are so messed up. But the current models have a etching around the sound hole at the moment. So this one right now isn't available, but it will be coming back. They do still make this model. And it was a surprise to me because I bought it and I thought it was another fully laminate mahogany ukulele. And they contacted me and said, hey, just so you know, it isn't laminate. The top isn't laminate. The sides and back are, which I think you can kind of see in that grain. But the top is the real deal. It's real solid mahogany. And you know what? Looking at it on the outside and the inside for this review, that is legit. You can actually see the grain in the side versus, you know, the sandwich layers or just even a dark center on a HPL laminate ukulele. So ultimately, it is a solid top ukulele. And that's quite incredible for a $40 purchase. It's still pretty incredible for a $60 purchase, although there is another company that makes a solid top with a kit right around that price point. So be aware that as you're shopping, and we'll talk more about it. But the company again is called Aiersi. So I owe this entire brand to Rich Davis and his channel. He talked about them, but that was partially because of his friend Rick in California, who we've been in touch with. And Rick bought one of these and told Rich, you need to buy one and see what it's like. And then when Rich bought one, and they were $23 at the time, shipped from China, I bought one and I reviewed this, and with all sincerity, I was blown out of the water with this instrument, and I still am. I still cannot believe how good this instrument is, and I would definitely recommend it if you can get one. And again, they'll be coming back to the US. They might be sold more on the Amazon store because Aiersi does have a presence on the Amazon store now, but this with different strings, highly, highly recommended. So since that time, I've been in touch with the company a little bit, and I'll be reviewing a few more of their ukuleles from time to time. And again, this is their concert model. So in these reviews, I do three things. First of all, I talk about the subjective issues of the instrument. Second, I talk about the objective data about the instrument. And third, I'll give you, again, another subjective, but a conclusion of my thoughts of the instrument. So let's start. When I bought this, it was $40. Right now, its similar models are just under $60 on Amazon, but you do get, again, a solid top instrument for that price, which for any other brand, except for one that I know of, is going to put you into the $100 plus territory. So a solid top instrument at this price is generally unheard of. Also in terms of cost, one of the things I like to do is I like to look at what has happened to this instrument in the recent months in terms of price. So here is Keepa.com. Again, I thank Rich Davis for pointing me to Keepa. And take a look. You can see that the price has gone steadily up. And the current models, again, that they're selling are just under $60. Although this model most recently was just under $40. So in terms of value, it is a really good value. And you do get a very lightweight bag. It's the same bag that comes with the HPL pineapple that I just showed you, but the difference is HPL hardly needs any care. A solid top is going to require a little bit of care. So when you buy one of these, if you buy one of these, factor in the price of a better gig bag or even a light case. You know, for example, Glary makes some ukulele cases that are quite affordable. And then also factor in the cost or plan to make your own humidifier for this if you live somewhere where the humidity drops below 40% relative humidity where you live. For example, here where I live, basically from most of October all the way through March, many times, I have to make sure that every wooden ukulele that I have that's a solid top or solid body ukulele is humidified, although I generally throw a humidifier in every case because the necks are still solid wood, even if the rest of the instrument is not. So plan on that. Just plan on a humidifier if you live in an area where the humidity goes below 40%. So back to the issue of value, you do need to factor in the cost of a bag, also factor in the cost of a humidifier, but other than that, it is an incredible deal at this price point. The build quality overall is really good with one exception. We'll take a look inside with the internal Uke Cam in just a second, but overall, no sharp fret ends. Really set up generally pretty well. Action is a little bit high at the 12th, so I will have to take down the saddle a little bit. We'll talk about that later, but the tuners all work just fine. You know, they're just functional geared tuners. They work just fine. The build is clean. The build quality is very good. The one spot, and I will show you this, it's right here. It is almost impossible to see until you get into the right light. In fact, you might be able to see it right there. There is a slight separation right there of the two halves of the body, and it's not my imagination. You can actually feel it and hear it just a little bit right where it falls in. We're going to take a look at that, but ultimately it's where it was glued together, and for some reason I've been pushing on it. I can't make it go any further, so I think it's firmly there, but I think this wasn't sealed tightly enough in the construction process. This is something that you'd want to watch in the future to make sure that the crack didn't go all the way up. It's not going to impact its playability at all because it is two halves that be glued together. And how I'm going to fix it on a $40 ukulele is I'm going to take a little bit of Titebond and I'm going to put it on my finger and I'm going to work it into that crack. And then I'm going to take a wet cloth and wipe off all the extra Titebond and just let it seal up and not worry about it. But again, some people would definitely return it for that. And Aiersi does stand behind their product. So if you wanted to insist on a different one, they would definitely take it back. Again, I'm not bothered about it because it's right literally on the crack of where the two halves meet. Now, when we take a look inside, you'll actually see there's a brace that sits underneath there that it's glued to. So it has that extra support. So it's not going anywhere. It's not like a crack somewhere else on the body. It's right in those two halves. And it doesn't bother me. But again, it might bother you. So keep that in mind. If you buy one of these, just check it out and check the seams. The laminate mahogany isn't going to do that ever. But the solid body where the ends are book matched, you can see it's book matched because you've got that lighter sort of sapwood that goes out to the regular mahogany. So keep that in mind. That's really it. But let's take a look on the inside of the ukulele so you can see what I'm talking about. I also start by looking right here. Let's do that. All right, let's take a look at the Aiersi 24-inch concert. But first I want to go here. Now here's the joint between the two book matched top pieces of the solid mahogany. And you can see the glue line this close. All right, I'm going to pull back. And here is where the crack is right here. So it's just a separation of the glue. And we'll take a look at that on the inside. But you can feel that. But you can see the glue all the way down when you get that close. I mean, you have to get really close with an inspection camera to see it. But that's where the separation is taking place. All right, I've got the ukulele flipped over. Let's go inside and take a look and see what we see in here. We'll do it a couple different ways. All right, so just looking in, first view, you can see some glue seepage on the inside, your notch kerfing, and then if I get the right angle here, you can see that there is a top brace that runs all the way down the ukulele, and there's your brace for the bridge. So there's your brace for the bridge. What I wanted to do is to get really close to that top piece back there where there's some separation. All right, as we look up, you can see that there's some glue seepage there. So it's possible that when this was glued together, the glue just kind of ran through that joint and didn't really seal quite right. I'll see if I can get on the other side of it too so you can see the seepage on both sides. You see it up there? And I think that's where the separation is. So I should be able just to run some glue there and do a very inexpensive fix with some Titebond and not have a problem there. So basically it's pretty clean, that one big drop of glue right there. But otherwise, it's a pretty clean build. Let's flip around to the other side. All right, taking a look at the neck block, you can see a little bit of glue seepage there. It's not too bad. Again, more of the notch kerfing as we go across. Try looking up on the other side here. There's that brace that goes across the top there. If I get a far enough angle here, you can actually see the grain in that real mahogany wood of the top, which is so different than what you see at the laminate back and sides. So you can see the difference there between the mahogany solid top and the laminate back and sides. So yeah, there's a few glue drips in there, but generally it's pretty clean, and even that little splint at the top I think is explainable and fixable. So there you go, the Aiersi SU-024TB, which is a solid mahogany top and laminate mahogany back and sides. Okay, welcome back. So you can see with that extra glue here, I'm really not too worried about it. All right, in terms of appearance, it's very plain, and this top is a very, you get the back and you get that very rich laminate mahogany. The top is not that affected by the orangey color, and it's very plain, but I like it. I like it. So I like the appearance of it. It kind of has that dog hair feel on the top a little bit. That's nice. The only thing I don't like about it in terms of its styling is the fact that the fretboard is rosewood and that the bridge is walnut. I would prefer that they matched those two woods. Let's talk availability of this instrument. That's going to be the big trick, is actually getting one of these. If AliExpress was still around, I'm sure that you could order from there, but it looks again like they're currently stopping some US shipments because they're finding a hard time getting them to the US, which is totally understandable in the pandemic of 2020, right? But with that in mind, occasionally shipments of these arrive and they're made available on Amazon, and then you can actually buy one. And my guess is that this plain model, not the one with the extra etching and so forth, will probably not be that $60 price point, but a lower price point. So when they're available, they are available, but you just have to wait for it. So it's kind of a mixed availability. The things still exist. They're still out there. They're not a unicorn of any kind. It's just you got to wait for it to show up right now in the United States in the Amazon store. Now, in terms of playability, overall, it's very playable. The one negative is that it doesn't have side markers. And I have let the company know that I would prefer, as most players would, to have those side dot markers right there. That's the only functional piece that it's missing. Otherwise, the nut width is approaching 35 millimeters, so it's a 35 millimeter nut. The spacing is really quite wide for a 35 millimeter nut, and it's very playable. The neck is C-shaped, but it's kind of narrow, so it's closer to 21 millimeters or so. So it's really kind of a more comfortable baseball bat, and I have no problems with the playability here. If you had giant hands, the 35 millimeter nut may give you some issues, but generally that extra spacing that you get and the way that they've put the strings on there, I think will work out pretty well for you. In terms of sound quality, I like it, but it's impeded by a couple of things. So it has some real sustain. I hear some real harmonics in the core tone, but the harmonics die off right away. And I don't think that's the ukulele. I think that is the strings. Now again, these are supposed to be Aquila Super Nile Gut strings. I'm not a real big fan of those strings. I love the kid strings. I like Aquila a lot. I like the sugar strings, but I generally tend to be a fluorocarbon player. So I am looking forward to this review to get in there and swap those strings and hear what comes out. Because with the little pineapple, the Aiersi pineapple, I think that one really came out with the new strings. Sounds great as an instrument. So I'm looking forward to putting on typically my Martin 600s on here and hearing how it sounds. So I'm looking forward to that. So I think it's going to be even better with sound quality. As it is, it's loud. Definitely quality is almost like a punchy soprano. Let's take a look at the app Tonal Energy Tuner, and we're going to take a look at the Harmonic series overview, or the Harmonic Energy series. And what you'll see is I play the chord, and you can see that there's a light up throughout the spectrum, and then only really the bottom part of the frequency sustains. The scale length is concert. It is 15-inch from nut to saddle. There are 18 frets, 14 to the body, and there are no side position markers, unfortunately. It is a traditional double-bout ukulele, and this one has a solid mahogany top. It's the real thing. You can even see it on the side of the top of the laminate. The back and sides are laminate mahogany. The fretboard is rosewood, and the bridge is a mismatched walnut bridge. Not a fan of that. And it is your traditional tie bar bridge there. The fretboard is not radius. It's just your normal straight flat radius. The nut and saddle are plastic, and the saddle is not compensated. It's a satin finish, very porous, grainy finish, very tactile, and the tuners are open geared tuners. The action at the 5th fret is 0.5 millimeters, so dead on there. At the 12th fret, it's a little high. It's 3 millimeters down there. So as I change the strings after this review, I'm going to go in and lower that saddle so that I can bring the strings down a little bit and bring that to my liking. The nut width is 34.70 millimeters, so just about a 35 millimeter nut. The space between the strings at the 1st fret is 8.45 millimeters between each string, which is pretty spacious. You can get a little more, but really not too much, with 28.51 millimeters G to A, which again is pretty spacious on a 35 millimeter nut. The overall depth is 21.20 millimeters at the 3rd fret. That's from the bottom of the neck to the top of the strings, just a way to kind of gauge of how thick that neck is. Let's summarize this instrument. It is from the same company called Aiersi that made this little HPL pineapple that I think so highly about. And one of the things I wanted to check was to see the consistency of the company in its products. I know that they're inexpensive. There's nothing wrong with inexpensive. Things can be done inexpensively and well. And overall, they've done a pretty good job with this instrument. It's a pretty clean build. If you saw the internal Uke Cam, you can see that there are some glue drips on the inside. You can see that there's some extra glue up here, perhaps to hold that together, that resulted, or not maybe to combat the perceived flaw there. I mean, you have to look at it the right way, but it's there. So as I look at this, is this an instrument that's worthy of the price that was originally listed for $40? The answer is yes. Is it worth $60? Yes. What if that crack would get worse? Well, ultimately, I think if you do what I'm going to do, which is to get some Titebond and get into that crack, it's not going to get worse. But if it did, then you'd take it probably to a luthier and you'd spend a little bit of money getting that fixed. But a solid top instrument is going to require some care. And I have had one other instrument crack. My Kala Travel ukulele has a crack in it as well, not in such a convenient spot. And with that in mind, it happens. You can take care of an instrument, you can humidify it, and still some bad things can happen to it. Do keep in mind that you'll need to plan on the extra cost of a thicker gig bag or a case, plus a humidifier if you live in an area where the humidity drops below 40% at any time of the year. At $40, absolute home run. At $60, still a good value, but do be aware that there is at least one other company selling a solid top ukulele with a kit for about the same price point. So keep that in mind as you're doing some shopping. So how am I going to rate this instrument? I rate instruments on a ranking of 0 to 5. And this is one that almost needs a long-term update down the road. As it stands, I would give this one a 4 out of 5. So I need to see a little bit more about this instrument over time that I can't do with a review on these strings at the current time or without a delay in time. So perhaps I'll schedule an update on this instrument in the future. It's overall still a very good build. It's still a good value for your money. It's just not a 5. So, all right, you can see what I'm doing here is I put some Titebond on my finger, more than I need, and I'm just running it over where this crack is here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a wet cloth and wipe off the excess. And again, if this was a very expensive ukulele, this might not be such a great thing to do. What I'm trying to do is get that glue to seep in there and seal so that then there won't be any future problem with the crack. It'll just be sealed from this side up. And then I'll go through and oil the bridge and oil the fretboard and put on the new strings, and they'll be good to go. I don't want to wait for another day. I just want to show you. There it is glued. Doesn't really look any different, but I know the glue's in there. It's going to hold. I have the Martin strings on. I've lowered the action just a touch. It could go lower, but I'm okay with it. So the sound is just so much more vibrant. I'll play a couple things and just see what you say or what you think. Yeah, it just rings so much longer and higher with these strings. Now I'm going to tune up again because I just restrung this. I do find that Martins settle pretty quickly. You can see how on that last note it had sunk a little bit. And just one more thing, here we go. Now, does it have the complete sort of warm sound of a complete solid instrument? No, but it has a bark and a bite that isn't really a part of a lot of the Laminate concerts I've been reviewing. So I like this, and I think in context, having glued that and different strings, this is certainly a 4 out of 5. All right, let's take a look at how Tonal Energy Tuner sees the instrument now. So I'm going to play the chord. And you can see what the sustain is now. Here it comes again. You don't lose that lower part that originally came with the instrument, but the higher part tends to hang on longer with the Martin strings. So overall, I'm very happy with the sound of these other strings. Thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks for watching the little extra part at the end. I hope you're having a great day, and I will be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.